Willa Chance looked out with mixed feelings at the clearing slated to become the new home of the Mystic Notch Historical Society. She loved the wooded area with its mature landscape and centuries-old trees, like the giant oak she now stood under. It seemed a shame to cut down those trees to erect a building, especially on a bright, sunny spring day where birds chirped and chipmunks rustled in the leaves. But there was no stopping it. Already a bulldozer sat at the edge of the property, and several tarps covered various other types of equipment. The aroma of honeysuckle brought a slow smile to her face, and she tried to forget about the construction equipment, while she tried to block out the droning voice of Rebecca Devon Smith, the mayor. Rebecca's speech about the new Historical Society building included a long-winded history of her ancestors' important contributions to the town of Mystic Notch. Willa preferred to listen to the birds, the mournful cry of the mourning dove, the twitter of the red-breasted robin, and the chirping melodies of the mockingbirds. Her heart squeezed as she realized some of the very trees these birds lived in would be sacrificed for the new building. How many nests with newly laid eggs waiting to hatch would be destroyed? Yet the area was perfect for the Historical Society, which was currently crowded into a small room in the town hall. As a seller of antique and used books, Willa loved the idea of moving the Historical Society to a bigger space, especially since the bigger space would allow them to open a museum that would include antique books. As a member of the Historical Society herself, Willa had a great respect for history, especially that of Mystic Notch, and she knew the Historical Society desperately needed to expand. The town had voted to put a new building right on this site, which was incredibly appropriate, as it had been the home of one of Mystic Notch's most infamous residents, Hester Warren. According to the very sketchy town records, Hester had been accused of witchcraft and burned at the stake in 1656. Her land had been seized by the town and lain unused ever since. Some said the land was haunted by Hester, but Willa did not think that was true. If it was haunted, she probably would have seen Hester by now, since ghosts had the annoying habit of manifesting themselves in front of her. No one knew exactly where Hester's house had stood. The records had been lost long ago. All they had was an old deed with the boundaries of the small property. So the town surveyor had chosen the best place to site the building. And here Willa was at the groundbreaking ceremony, along with the mayor, several members of the Historical Society, and a variety of onlookers. One of these was her sister, Augusta, or Gus, as Willa called her, who was the current sheriff of Mystic Notch. Gus had her blonde hair pulled up into a severe bun, which Willa suspected Gus thought made her look more authoritative. Beside Gus was Willa's on-again, off-again boyfriend, Eddie Stryker, the sheriff of the neighboring county. He and Gus often helped each other out on investigations. Willa wasn't sure why he was here now, but his handsome, square-jawed face and deep gray eyes were welcome sights, no matter what the reason. A handful of townspeople, none of whom seemed to be paying attention to Rebecca's boring speech, stood in clusters around the clearing. Willa's eyes drifted around the small crowd as Rebecca droned on. Across from Willa, Gus and Stryker looked official in their brown sheriff's uniforms, their feet shoulder-width apart, arms clasped behind their backs. Stryker was a full foot taller than Willa's petite sister, and his broad shoulders made Gus look even more like a Barbie doll than usual. Stryker winked at her. Willa blushed. Gus scowled at both of them. Rebecca finished her speech, and there was a round of muted applause. Elisabeth Post, an aging crone with wrinkly hands and a nest of hair dyed a bold, unnatural red, stood beside Rebecca. Elisabeth was the head of the Historical Society, and thus had possession of the groundbreaking shovel, a small, gold-colored tool which Willa thought was much too flimsy to dig a hole. Elisabeth handed the ineffective shovel to Rebecca, who accepted it with an exaggerated flourish.